Hello everyone. వినిపిస్తుందా నా వాయిస్? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let us start fifth unit actually. Unmute your audio and video only when you want to ask something. Otherwise, mute your audio and video and try to follow the class. Okay. So in fifth unit, we have radial basis function neural networks. That is our topic. And before that, we need to understand two topics. One is Covers theorem and the other one is interpolation problem. And then how the interpolation problem can be solved using the RBF neural networks. Let's see that. So let us begin with Covers theorem. Covers theorem states that a complex pattern classification problem cast in a high dimensional space non-linearly is more likely to be linearly separable than in a low dimensional space. It looks like don't know anything about this Covers theorem, but we know this very well because we uh, covered this topic in support vector machines also. Whenever you are designing a nonlinear SVM, the first step will be mapping the input space from a low dimension space to high dimension space. That is our first step in design of nonlinear SVMs. That is what this statement is saying. I'll read it again. Covers theorem is about a complex pattern classification problem in a high dimensional space is more likely to be linearly separable than in a low dimensional space. That is what we did. If we are not able to find a solution in low dimension space, we map that low dimension space into a high dimension space by using nonlinear mapping. We did it in nonlinear SVM design. Covers theorem states that only. You can write it in your own words. There is no need to read this as it is. You can write it in your own words. It simply says that something which is not having a solution in low dimension space, you can convert it into a high dimension space. Then you can find a linear solution for it. That is the meaning of this covers theorem. And this covers theorem can be specified with some technical terminology. If you go through this, let X be a set of n patterns saying x1, x2, so on, xn, each of which is assigned to one of the two classes x positive and x negative, which means it is a dichotomy, that is binary partition problem. Every input pattern either falls into x plus category or falls into x minus category. So these kind of problems are known as dichotomies, or simply binary partitioning problems. Okay, so if this is the problem, a binary classification problem, then for mapping that input space into a high dimensional space, you need to use a vector of real valued functions, a set of real valued functions. Phi of x is equal to phi1 of x, so on to phi n of x, based on the number of functions required according to your problem definition. It depends on the problem you are solving. It may vary from one problem to another problem. Okay, so phi1 of x, phi2 of x, and so on, phi n of x are the functions which actually maps the input space into high dimension space. Right. So that's what it is saying. Phi of x maps the input space from m0 dimension to m1 dimension, assuming that it is m1 is always higher dimension than m0 dimension. That's what it is saying. Then, okay. So to find a solution for that problem, what we need to do is uh, we need to divide that uh, input patterns into two classes, x plus and x minus, the dichotomy, by using these two formulas. W power t into phi of x is greater than 0 represents the x plus category, and W power t into phi of x less than 0 represents the x minus category. Therefore, the hyperplane that actually separates these two classes of input patterns will be W power t into phi of x is equal to 0. So you need to identify what is that phi of x, and then once you identify what is phi of x, you can identify W power t also, what is the weight vector. So we'll see that when we go through the architecture of radial basis function neural network at the end, how this can be used. But you need to understand what is um, the covers theorem as of now. It is just a statement which is saying that there is a binary classification problem, and the solution, the hyperplane that has a solution for that binary classification problem, will have these equations. greater than 0 will represent the positive class, less than 0 will represent the negative class, is equal to 0 will represent the surface which divides those two classes. Now, to understand this low dimension and high dimension spaces, we'll consider a problem which is not linearly separable. We know that XOR problem is not linearly separable. The input patterns are 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. Output is going to be 0, 1, 1, 0 for the respective inputs. And now what we'll do is, let us see whether these input patterns are linearly separable or not. You can easily see that 0, 0, 1, 1 represents 0 in output, and 0, 1, 1, 0 represents the output 1. And can we draw a line over here to separate zeros and ones? There is no way to draw a single line to separate zeros and ones over here. So this is not linearly separable. Therefore, we need to map these inputs into some other space, maybe of same dimension or of another dimension, 3 dimension or 4 dimension, something like that. But for this example, we are using the same dimension, but we'll map them into some feature space that is linearly separable. So for that, I'm defining two functions over here, which are known to be Gaussian functions. Phi1 of x is equal to e power minus x minus t1 whole square, assuming the center t1 as 1, 1, and phi2 of x is e power minus x minus t2 whole square, assuming the center t2 as 0, 0. You need to observe that 1, 1 and 0, 0 both represents the output 0 only. Or else you can take t1 as 0, 1 and t2 as 1, 0. That is your wish. You can select any centers, but both the centers must represent the same output. So that's what you need to do. So here we took t1 is equal to 1, 1 and t2 is equal to 0, defining these two Gaussian functions as phi1 of x and phi2 of x. Now for each input pattern, we can calculate the values in the high dimension space by using phi1 and phi2. So input pattern is 0, 0. Phi1 of x will be the value 0.1353. It is easy to calculate because x is 0, 0. Phi1 defines the center as 1, 1. So 0, 0 minus t1 is always going to be 1, 1. Okay, 0, 0 minus 1, 1 whole square. This is nothing but the square root of the difference between these two numbers, these two vectors, is going to be square root of x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus 1 y2 whole square. That means 0 minus 1 whole square plus 0 minus 1 whole square. We have applied square root, which means that 1 and 1 square is going to be 1. So 0.1353 is phi1, and phi2 of x. What is phi2 of x? By using the same formula, by using x minus t2, it is 0, 0. So 0 minus 0 whole square plus 0 minus 0 whole square. Actually, you can see it as there is no difference between the given two terms. So 0, 0 minus 0, 0 means that there is no difference. In that way also you can see it. E power minus 0, something, anything power 0 is always going to be 1. So it is going to be 1. So this is 0.1353 and this is 1. Similarly, you can calculate for this x. These are input patterns are x, and these are phi1 and phi2 values that represents the corresponding output vector. Now the new values are calculated with the help of phi1 and phi2 of x. Now the point is 0, 0 represents 0.1353 comma 1. 0, 1 represents 0.3678 comma 0.3678. 1, 0 represents 0.3678, 0.3678, and 1, 1 represents 1 comma 0.1353 in the higher dimension space. Therefore, we'll draw these points as input vectors. So the first point 0.1353 comma 1, and then second point 0.3678 comma 0.3678, third point 0.3678 comma 0.3678. So if you draw it, you will get zeros over here, and ones, both of them will come over here. Now zeros are here, ones are here, therefore you can definitely separate them with the help of a line. Now it is linearly separable. So the low dimension space is not linearly separable, but the high dimension space is linearly separable, right? So that's what Cover's theorem is saying. This is an example that is showing the proof of Cover's theorem. What it says is, when you are not able to find this separation or a pattern classification problem in low dimension space, uh, map it to some high dimension space and find a linear separability solution there. That's what it says. Now, uh, example of high separable dichotomies. Actually, there are. See, someone is there any other example for nonlinear separable patterns? Yes, you can go through your notebooks. I have given other examples also, because I don't have any material regarding that. So you better go through the notebooks. You have two to three examples in that. In sixth unit, not in this unit. Every problem that we solved using nonlinear SVM or nonlinear SVM, it's an example for this. Okay. Okay. And then the types of dichotomies, there is not always we are going to draw a straight line for every problem. It is possible that several other shapes we can use for separating the input patterns, classifying the input patterns. The other possibilities of separations are spherically separable, you can do it like this, and quadrically separable, you can do it like this. These are possibilities, but there is no way of directly doing it. You need to convert the input space into feature space, and then only you can do these separabilities. Okay. And the second problem we need to understand, the second topic in this unit we need to understand is interpolation problem. This is a simple problem which we already know. Uh, it says interpolation problem says that if there are some n different points in space R power p, let us say xi are n different points which belongs to this R power p domain, R power p domain set of real values, and also we have di belongs to some R domain. This interpolation problem is to find a function f in such a way that f of xi is equal to di, which means di acts as desired responses and xi acts as the input patterns. X1 is the input with its desired response d1. The x2 is the input with its desired response d2, and so on like that. So the interpolation problem aim is to find out a function f which actually maps every input pattern to the corresponding desired response. That's what mm, the interpolation problem is. We can find a solution by using RBF networks. I will discuss it at the end. So that's what the interpolation problem is. Generally, the solution will be like this. With the help of a radial basis function, we'll do that. I will explain it later when we go through that radial basis function network, because the solution is provided by the radial basis function network. Okay. And to understand the solution of RBF network, you need to understand a little maths over here. Assume that d is equal to d1, d2, so on dn are the desired responses. W is equal to w1, w2, so on wn, that decides or that maps the desired responses with the input patterns. Okay. Then what we'll do is, assuming that the function is phi that maps the input patterns to desired responses, the relationship between the function phi and the weights and the desired responses is like this. Phi into W is equal to D, and the answer we need to identify is W is equal to phi inverse into D. You need to find out the inverse of the vector and then multiply it with the desired responses. So we'll solve the problem at the end. We'll use the same formulas for identifying it. And the phi acts as the function which actually maps. There are several possibilities of functions we can select. Some of them are given over here. It is not limited. There are many other functions available. We already saw a function which is used in our XR problem, uh, e power minus xi minus something ti. Here there are other possibilities. The first possibility is inverse multi-quadratic RBF function, which says this phi of r is equal to 1 by r square plus c square square root. C must be greater than 0 and r must be greater than or equal to 0. Gaussian RBF function is another possibility. These are most popular functions, RBF functions, which are used in networks. This is EXPF, which means e power minus r square by 2 sigma square, sigma greater than 0 and r is greater than 0. Sigma acts as the standard deviation of the input points. Okay, now we'll move on to the actual topic. Our actual topic in this unit is the radial basis function neural network, the design of RBF-NN. So first we'll go through the architecture. Any RBF neural network contains only 3 layers. You need to understand that first. Only 3 layers will be there. Input layer, hidden layer, only single hidden layer. You cannot have more than one hidden layer. And a single output layer. The number of neurons may vary. Maybe this architecture is showing only one neuron, but you can have multiple neurons in the output layer also based on your requirement. So this is one possible architecture. What you need to understand is the RBF neural network always contains 3 layers only: input layer, single hidden layer, and output layer. And there is a little explanation about this. And what you need to understand is, look at this. This word you need to remember. Uh, the connections from input layer to hidden layer always performs a nonlinear mapping, which is nothing but we convert the input space into some other space which may be of same dimension or higher dimension. That is what is done at this step. And once they are available in higher dimension space, uh, we can find a solution by using a linear mapping. It's a normal solution. You can use a perceptron model also. It shows weights. You can observe that in nonlinear mapping, there is no weight declared over here. What we do is, based on the number of hidden neurons, you need to select that many radial basis functions here. So it is showing phi 1, phi 2, so on, phi n. So if you have n hidden neurons in your neural network, then you require n radial basis functions for mapping your input into higher dimension. Once the input is available in higher dimension, you can use the general perceptron model to find out the solution for this. Okay, so now you can easily identify what is going to be this f of x. F of x is going to be phi I of xi, summation of phi I of xi and into this weights. So we'll see that later, Gaussian functions and all. So 3 layers: input layer, hidden layer. Input layer to hidden layer is nonlinear mapping. That's what it is explained. You can write it in your own words. So let us understand how this radial basis function neural network can be designed with the help of an example. Again, I'm considering XR problem. So in the previous example, what we learned is whether XR problem is linearly separable or not. Otherwise, how to convert that low dimension space into high dimension space. We just understood that point, but we did not finish up, uh, we did not design any solution for it. Now we will design a RBF neural network for this XR problem, which identifies the nonlinear mapping as well as the weights, which identifies the solution also. So for that, what we need to do is, the first step is you need to identify the architecture of RBF neural network. You can assume any number of hidden neurons. The number of input neurons depends on your input space. So the size of vector in your input space is 2, 1 comma 1, 1 0 0 1 0 0. Therefore, The number of input neurons are going to be 2, and the number of hidden neurons may vary. You can choose any number of hidden neurons, that doesn't matter. And finally, because it is producing only a single output, I'm using a single output neuron in the output layer. So once you identify the architecture of RBF neural network, the next thing is you need to identify the radial basis functions that you will consider for nonlinear mapping. Again, I'm using the same two functions, phi1 of x and phi2 of x, e power minus x minus x1 whole square, e power minus x minus x2 whole square. And assuming that x1 is equal to 1, 1, x2 is equal to 0, 0. Okay. Then instead of calculating mapping and showing that it is linearly separable, I directly assume that the input patterns after applying these phi radial basis function are linearly separable, so that I will move on to the next step. What I will do is I will calculate the interpolation matrix phi by using the formula phi 11, phi 12, phi 21, phi 22, phi 31, phi 32, phi 41, phi 42. Because there is only uh, 2 hidden neurons, this matrix is like this. If there is something else, if you have uh, phi ij, see this formula, phi ij for I is equal to comma j is equal to 1 to n. Depending on your number of hidden neurons, size of this interpolation matrix will vary. So phi 11, what you need to understand here is, please look at this. X1 is taken as 1 comma 1. The first center is 1 comma 1 and the second center is 0 comma 0. Okay, so now this 511, 521, 531 and 541, all of them will calculate the distance between this first center and the inputs. So 511 is the distance between 11 and the center 11, and 10, 11, 01, 11, 00 and 11. Okay, and similarly you can calculate the distance between the second center and all the 4 points. They become 512, 522, 532 and 542. So this will give, you need to observe the formula also. I have given formula over here. The formula is square root of x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square, which is e power minus of. You need to understand that. And then so you'll get this matrix. This is interpolation matrix, which is of size 4 by 2. By writing up all those values we got, phi is equal to 4 by 2 matrix. Now add a bias. Look at this bias 1, which is added as the first column. Because we added as first column, the bias we get at the end is also at the first value, at the first row or first column. So I am finding phi power t because I need it to find out the inverse interpolation. To find out the weight matrix, what we need to understand is W is equal to phi power t into phi whole inverse. This is the formula you need to understand. You may ask, what is the uh, high dimension space? This is nothing but your high dimension space. So after converting it from low dimension space to high dimension space, this is the output. And now I am trying to find out the weights W1 and W2, which are written from written over here, W1 from hidden layer to output layer. So I want to find out that W1 and W2. For that, I will make use of the formula, which is represented as inverse interpolation. You need to remember this formula somehow. So W is equal to phi power t into phi whole inverse, phi power t into d. You may ask a question here, because the actual solution for interpolation problem is shown that W is equal to phi inverse into d is the solution. But why we are using this much of thing? So if the matrix is a square matrix, then and it maps with the desired response also. these two are multipliable, then we can use phi inverse into D. Otherwise, we cannot find inverse of a matrix if it is not a square matrix. Therefore, what we are doing here is 5 power t into 5 we are doing, which always results in a square matrix. Then we are calculating inverse for that. Then to come out of that extra operation we did, we are again multiplying it 5 power t, and then we are multiplying it with the desired response. So this is what we did to calculate the weight matrix W. Okay, so calculate that. Use simple matrix multiplication. Use that matrix multiplication, and somehow you will get the final answer 2.8404 minus 2.5019 minus 2.50. Because we added once the bias values as first column, here you need to consider the first value you get as bias value. Otherwise, if you add that bias values that once at the last column, then you will get this bias value as the last value in the vector. You need to understand that. So the weight vector is minus 2.5019 and minus 2.5019. So that's what we got. Now our neural network is ready with weights, and now I want to identify what is the output that may be generated by our RBF neural network, because we designed it properly and I want to verify it. Okay, so the input is 1 comma 0. So let us calculate the value which is produced by f of x. F of x is going to be phi1 w1 plus phi2 w2 plus bias. So this depends on the number of hidden neurons. There are two hidden neurons. The output of first hidden neuron is phi1. The output of second hidden neuron is phi2. And the weights connecting the hidden layer and output layer is w1 and w2. And we expected some bias also. We considered some bias also. So let us calculate these two values, phi1 w1 plus phi2 w2, using the same formula, phi1 of x and then phi2 of x, because the x is 1 comma 0 here, for which we want to identify the output value of RBF neural network. And phi1 expects the center as 1 1, phi2 expects the center as 0 0. So 1 0 minus 1 1 whole square, 1 0 minus 0 0 whole square into these values, plus the bias we got is 2.8404. So the value we got for this is 1 point something approximately. So this is the value we got. Anything which is greater than 0 is treated as 1, and anything which is less than or equal to 0 is treated as 0. Therefore, the output produced by our RBF neural network is 1, which says that the input pattern 1 comma 0 in XOR problem produces the output 1. So it is predicting properly. Similarly, you can calculate the value predicted by 0 1 also. You can use the same process, right? And finally, how the training happens in RBF neural network. This is just a summary of what we learned in the example problem. Actually, we used a simple radial basis function. Phi of x is equal to e power minus some x minus center. Okay, so for that, we'll generalize it now. There are actually 3 steps in this for designing the RBF neural network. The training is done with 3 steps. The first step is you need to identify some RBF function which are treated as Gaussian functions. There are many choices, you can choose any of them. This is your first step. And once you identify it, you can see that in every formula there are C and R terms. It says that C is the center and R is the width of the number of nearby values you need to consider. So for finding the center C, you can use k-means clustering algorithm. The list of steps are also given over there, k-means clustering. I think you read that in data mining also. The same algorithm is used here. If you choose k-means clustering algorithm, then the number of clusters will be the k. And then for identifying the width R, you need to use k nearest neighbors algorithm. This we already learned in second unit. K nearest neighbors algorithm always says that how many nearest elements need to be observed for identifying the closest point. So that width also need to be identified. So remember one thing, that these R and C are required only when your radial basis function contains these terms. Otherwise, if you go with a simple RBF function which does not have anything, without calculating any center. In our example, what we did is we assumed two centers. We did not calculate any centers. We assumed the two centers as 1, 1 and 0, 0. But for the real-time problems, you need to calculate that centers also. You cannot choose them randomly. That's what we need to do. And once you identify them, once you map that using radial basis function, the final step will be calculating W. You need to remember these three steps. The first step is identify the radial basis function. That means there are number of options. You choose a radial basis function. Second step is identify the number of the centers for your problem. And third step is identify the number of close points that you will identify before you select your center. And finally, calculating the vectors for linear mapping. So that's what your steps are. Okay. So that is about the RBF neural network, and the last one is a small theoretical thing, regularization problem. I don't think it is required for us, but there is a possible question on regularization network, because it is a solution for your regularization problem, regularization theory. Let me show you the architecture of regularization networks. Okay, so this is a possible solution, a regularization network, which always uses the same pattern of RBF networks. You need to identify the RBF neural networks. These RBF neural networks must be a Gaussian function, which is named as, you need to remember the name also, it is called Geeks functions, Greek something, Green's function or something, G of xi comma, x comma, Green's function. That's what. The difference is, in normal RBF neural networks, we can use any of the available Gaussian functions, but in this regularization network, the only option you have is use Green's function only. Green's function, G of x comma xi, you need to use that function, which says that e power minus of x minus xi whole square again. Okay, so the